Greetings, my name is Bob Hindle and I'm with Neighbors for Life, and I thank you for coming to our website www.neighborsforlife.org. Neighbors for Life has been active in Minnesota for the past, since 1998, and we've been fighting tax funding of abortion. Now, this unfortunate circumstance was hoisted on us by the Minnesota Supreme Court in 1995. Supreme Court basically made the contention that if we fund prenatal care, we need to also fund abortions with our tax dollars. And that sailed through in a fraudulent lawsuit without any discovery and summary judgment. We've been working against this for years now. We've collected 50,000 signatures against it statewide. We've helped many pro-life legislators into office. We've held legislative hearings on this in 2000, and we've done concerts and plays, etc. It's an ongoing labor, and the reason I mention that is there is a debate today going on, and many of you will be very aware of this debate, regarding health care reform. And one of the great dangers of health care reform for people like myself, and I believe also yourselves, who believe in God and believe in the sanctity of human life, is that this health care reform may very well be the conduit to federal tax funding of abortion. Now let me back off a little bit and talk more generally about health care reform. You know, I talk to a lot of different people. I talk to people out on the coast of Oregon, friends of my sister who's a physician, who are extremely liberal and want a single-payer system. I talk to people who are very conservative, who are very religious, and think nothing more than that government-funded healthcare would be anathema. And among all these different people, among people on the right and people on the left, and old and young, there is a consensus about the current state of healthcare in our country. For instance, if your grandmother or your brother or your uncle gets sick, I'm sure you would send them right away to India. That's where the best healthcare is. Maybe not India, Sweden. That's right, they have socialized health. No, Africa. That's right, that's where it's at. Well, we all know the answer. The best health care in the world is in the United States. That is the best doctors, the best training, the best equipment, and in general, the best circumstances for delivering health care. Now, in the same breath, these individuals that I've talked to again and again, on the right, on the left, old and young, will agree that the presenting problem in healthcare today is number one, cost, and number two, access. These are the things that we're dealing with that are problematic. We've all heard the horror stories. A person who's diagnosed with cancer, let's say a woman diagnosed with breast cancer, she has good insurance, they drop her in her time of need. A person who applies for insurance, perhaps they're elderly and they find they're having significant kidney trouble, they can't get insurance. And we all know, especially those of us who have families and are providing health care by our employment or simply out of our own pockets for our families, we all know that premiums are rising. They're becoming unaffordable. There was a film about this recently, a person I'm not a fan of at all, Michael Moore. However, to give credit to him, this film, Sicko, and I do recommend it, does point out a lot about the current state of affairs in insurance in this country, and there's some real problems with it. People are cut off, insurance regulators are strategizing to get rid of people who are cost burdens on the system, etc. So therein lies the presenting problem of healthcare in our country today, cost and access. Okay, I come from a background, kind of an engineering background. Incidentally, just coincidentally, my father was an electrical engineer, and he was very active in medical technology. He was one of the first to work with X-ray scanners, CT scanners, ultrasound, etc., digital imaging. And my view is that when you have a problem, what you try to do is find a solution that affects a change for the better with a minimum disruption to the existing system. And in this light, I want to propose some solutions to the problem of cost and access that have been brought up again and again by many people throughout our country, unfortunately not really listened to in this healthcare debate, and certainly not included in the current legislation. Okay, one of the first things that people recommend is guaranteed access. What does that mean? That basically means that insurers across the country would be mandated to accept persons who are ill, who have pre-existing conditions. It does not mean, and this is very important to understand, that the free market system be invalidated, that a person who is completely healthy be covered at the same rate that a person has a significant illness. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because we don't cover people who've had 20 accidents in a month at the same rate as someone who has a clean driving record. So guaranteed access would simply ensure that insurance companies do cover people and do not drop them when they develop some kind of illness. A second thing that would help immensely would be competition. If insurance were available across straight line and state lines, this would make it possible for us to have more reasonable pricing schemes in our insurance rates. Now, as an example, the airline industry used to be monopolized by big airline carriers such as Northwest and American, etc. Then some young guys got the smart idea of starting an airline that would provide very, very small services, but at very low cost. JetBlue. Sun Country is another example of that. What happens in the free market system, of course, is when you begin to have one business undercutting prices, it drives prices down for everyone. And so, competition across state lines would help immensely in the insurance industry. Why don't we have that now? Because currently we have state regulation of insurance companies. We have restrictions on which ones can operate within a given state. We don't have uniform guidelines across the country. I'm not knowledgeable enough about the details. That might be the subject of a future presentation, but certainly competition would help out immensely with cost.